Here is Durant moving on Tucker. He turns, he shoots.
The Nets were an inch away from greatness before it all came tumbling down. But how did we get here? And how does this impact the legacies of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and the Brooklyn Nets franchise? During the 2019 season, rumors were swirling that Kevin Durant was unhappy in Golden State. His beef with Draymond Green was only growing, and many thought this was the last dance for the Warriors. They entered the playoffs trying to join the Lakers, Celtics, and Bulls as the only teams ever to three-peat. But it took a turn in the Western Conference semifinals when Kevin Durant strained his calf against the Houston Rockets. The Warriors survived without KD, making it all the way to the NBA Finals. It was Game 5 against Kawhi Leonard's Toronto Raptors, and the Warriors were down 3-1. But Kevin Durant made his return, scoring 11 points in 11 minutes, and it was looking like the Warriors were going to make a comeback, until KD tragically tore his Achilles. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving was unhappy in Boston. He was upset about the lack of veteran leadership. He wanted the young stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to step up, and he did not always see eye to eye with head coach Brad Stevens. Remember, Kyrie Irving left Cleveland because he wanted to lead his own team to the NBA Finals, but the team never felt whole and the chemistry was always off. And in the playoffs, Kyrie's Celtics lost to the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference semis. Throughout the season, it was rumored that both KD and Kyrie were going to join forces for New York, but it wasn't the Knicks. It was the team across the river in Brooklyn.
Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Kevin Durant is in fact headed to Brooklyn.
On July 7th, 2019, the Brooklyn Nets signed and traded for Kevin Durant, giving up D'Angelo Russell, Shabazz Napier, and Travion Graham, and signing KD to a 4-year, $164 million contract. Soon later, Kyrie signed a 4-year deal worth $141 million. And both KD and Kyrie took a small pay cut so the Nets could sign DeAndre Jordan. During the 2016 Olympics, all three of them decided they were going to team up. So the Nets signed Jordan to a 4-year contract worth $40 million, despite his clear decline in the previous years. And remember this, it will be important later on.
The New York Knicks have lost New York to the Brooklyn Nets.
In the first season in Brooklyn, 2019 to 2020, KD was out for the season with his Achilles injury. But that did not stop Kyrie Irving from showing out. He started his Nets career against the Minnesota Timberwolves, making 5 of his first 7 shots. At one point, the Nets were down 18, but by halftime, Kyrie had 25 points, cutting the lead down to 12. The Nets continued to crawl back, and in the fourth quarter, Kyrie scored 11 of Brooklyn's final 13 points and assisted on the other bucket. And the Nets tied it up, taking this game to overtime. But Kyrie's 50 points were not enough, as he missed a game-winning shot. This game was a perfect picture as to what's to come for the Nets. Incredible moments of greatness, but it was never enough. Kyrie was in and out of the lineup with shoulder and knee trouble, but it was only a few months later when he did it again. On the last day of January, the Nets faced off against the Bulls. Kyrie started hot, going 10 for 10 to start the game. He could not miss from 3, dropping in 7 of them, on the way to a dominating 50-point night. But the good vibes in Brooklyn never lasted long, as on February 20th, the team announced that Kyrie Irving would miss the rest of the season with shoulder surgery. In only 20 games for the Nets, Kyrie would average 27 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds, becoming the first player in franchise history to have multiple 50-point games in a single season. And he did it in only 20 games. Despite both superstars sidelined for the season with injury, the Nets fired head coach Kenny Atkinson. He was hired in 2016, spending parts of 4 seasons with the team. Atkinson brought the Nets from the doldrums post the Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce era, building the Nets into an attractive destination where NBA stars like KD and Kyrie would want to sign there. While missing their 2 best players for most of the year, Atkinson had the Nets at 28-34, 7th in the East. Reports denied that KD and Kyrie were involved in Atkinson's departure, but we all know the NBA is run by the superstars. If they wanted him to stay, he would have stayed. Jacques Vaughn was selected to be the interim head coach, but only 4 days later, Rudy Gobert got COVID and the NBA season was shut down.
The Brooklyn Nets are hiring Steve Nash.
The bubble is over. Kyrie and KD are all healed up and ready to play. This was their year to prove themselves. But before the season even began, Kyrie was already causing drama.
I don't really see us having a head coach. You know what I mean? Like, KD could be a head coach. I could be a head coach.
Jacques Vaughn could do it one day. It's a collaborative effort, I think, on our part.
On December 22nd, 2020, the Nets made their season debut, with both KD and Kyrie in the lineup. In his first game back, Durant faced off against his old team, the Golden State Warriors. Even though he was still on a minutes restriction, it looked like he never missed a step, scoring 22 points in only 25 minutes. Kyrie scored 26 of his own, as the Nets dominated, winning 125-99. Before the season began, the Nets had the third best odds of winning the finals. Now after one game, they already look like the favorites. The Nets started the 2020-2021 season 4-4, and after only 6 games together, Kyrie Irving announced he was leaving the team for personal reasons. Here's why Kyrie left the team in his own words.
There's a lot of family and personal stuff going on, so just want to leave it at that.
Kyrie missed 7 games in 2 weeks, but the Nets were not waiting for anyone.
The Brooklyn Nets have acquired Houston's James Harden in a blockbuster deal.
The news was so big, ESPN interrupted their NFL show to announce the news. In a complicated 4-team deal, the Nets sent out Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, Rodimus Kurucs, 3 unprotected first-round picks, and 4 pick swaps for James Harden. The Nets said they included Allen in the deal because of salary reasons, but there's more to the story than that. Yes, salary was a factor, but it would have been much easier to pay him if the Nets were not already paying DeAndre Jordan. Last season, under Atkinson, Allen started 64 games compared to DeAndre Jordan's 6. But under Jacques Vaughn, Jordan began the season in the starting lineup, despite everyone knowing that Allen was the better player. What was rumored then was confirmed a few years later. Atkinson wanted to start Allen over Jordan, but that created tension between him and the veteran superstars. KD and Kyrie brought in DeAndre Jordan to play together, and if they wanted him to play, he was going to play. But Atkinson did not back down and eventually lost his job. In the 2 games after Atkinson got fired, DeAndre Jordan was suddenly the Nets starting center.
As far as I'm concerned, it's finals or bust.
In James Harden's Nets debut, he showed why the Nets were the new favorites to win the finals. On January 16th, the Nets played the Magic. Kyrie was still MIA, but Harden and KD played like they never left each other all those years ago in OKC. Durant scored a game-high 42 points, and Harden dropped a 32-point triple-double as the Nets beat the Magic. But they were still missing one piece of the puzzle, and that puzzle never seemed to be completed. After only playing 5 games together, KD injured his hamstring in his return to Golden State. What was thought to be a 2-game injury became a 23-game one. Kyrie eventually returned, and the Nets still had 2 superstars. In the very next game after KD's injury, Kyrie dropped 40, and Harden collected another triple-double. The Nets went 19-4 in KD's absence. It was not until April when Durant returned to the lineup, and in classic KD fashion, he did not miss a beat. Coming off the bench, he shot a perfect 5 for 5 from the field, scoring 17 points in only 19 minutes. The Nets also added to their lineup throughout the season, signing Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge in the buyout market. And at the end of the regular season, the Nets were 48-24, 1 game behind the 1 seed. Due to injuries, load management, and COVID, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden only played 8 games together, totaling only 202 minutes. Kyrie had his best season in Brooklyn, scoring 27 points, 6 assists, and 4.8 rebounds, becoming the 9th player in NBA history to join the 50-40-90 club. But the Nets season truly began in the playoffs, and their first series was dominant. They were going up against Kyrie's old team, the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum was only 22 and Jaylen Brown was out with injury. The Nets took the series in 5 games, including an incredible Game 4, with a big 3 combined for 104 points. KD averaged 32 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Harden totaled 28 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals, and Kyrie added in 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. They were clearly the best team in the league at this point, with 3 of the best scorers on the planet.
That's what we do. We focus on ourselves as much as possible. You know, obviously, we got to wait, see who we're going to play Brooklyn.
But the next round, the Big 3 Nets had to get through 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. Enter Game 1. Harden gets hurt less than a minute in, re-aggravating a hamstring injury he sustained during the regular season. But just like all season, the Brooklyn Nets had enough firepower. They got 19 points from Joe Harris, 18 points and 14 rebounds from Blake Griffin, and Durant and Kyrie combined for 54 points of their own, as the Nets took Game 1. In Game 2, no Harden, no problem. The Nets took an early lead and never lost it. Durant scored 32 points and sat out of the fourth quarter. Kyrie added in another 22 points, and during the game, the Nets were up by as much as 49 points. They blew out the Bucks 125-86, and the Nets seemed inevitable. They had 3 of the best players in the league, along with high-quality role players like Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, Joe Harris, and Jeff Green. The Nets were halfway to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it looked like the Bucks had no chance of coming back. Going into Game 3, Chris Middleton only had 30 points in 2 games, missing 30 of his 43 shots. Milwaukee needed this one to avoid going down 3 games to nothing. So the Bucks jumped out to an early lead, outscoring Brooklyn 30-11 in the first quarter. But Brooklyn worked their way back, and this one became a slugfest. Middleton surged, scoring 35 in the game, but Brooklyn took a late lead with 20 seconds left, with Durant scoring their last 9 points. Then, Jrue Holiday sealed the deal for the Bucks. In Game 4 in Milwaukee, the basketball gods punished the Nets once again. Kyrie sprained his ankle, and Giannis scored 34 points on his way to the win. Despite Irving getting hurt, Durant and Kyrie were the only Nets in double figures. And now this series is tied and the pressure is on. With Kyrie out, James Harden returned, although seriously hampered by his injury. The Bucks took a 17-point lead. Giannis had 34 points, Middleton had 25, but it was not enough, as Kevin Durant had one of the best playoff performances of all time. Durant had 49 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists, the first player ever to have at least 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists in a playoff game. Veterans Jeff Green added 27, along with Blake Griffin 17. With the season on the line, the Bucks bounced back in Game 6. Milwaukee never trailed. Middleton set a career playoff high with 38 points, along with 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals. Giannis added in 30 points and 17 rebounds, and Holiday totaled 21, 8, and 5. And this series is tied again, going into Game 7. The Nets started the first quarter strong. KD had 10 points, and the Nets had a 3-point lead after the first quarter. The Bucks stars were struggling in the first half. Middleton and Holiday were both 2 for 11, missing all 6 of their 3-pointers. But they went on a run to start the third quarter, scoring 7 straight to take a 1-point lead. There were a bunch of lead changes, but the Bucks kept their 1-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. The fourth was hotly contested, and with 6 seconds left, the Nets had a chance to win the series.
Into Durant. Here is Durant moving on Tucker. He turns, he shoots.
Instead of winning the game, it was tied going into overtime. And that would be the closest the Nets would ever come to the NBA Finals. Giannis had 40 points and 13 rebounds, and Middleton made the go-ahead bucket with 40 seconds left, closing out the Nets in OT.
I think Kyrie Irving should retire.
After playoff heartbreak, Kevin Durant extended with Brooklyn, inking a 4-year, $198 million deal. Going into the season, The pressure was on Brooklyn. Many felt they should have beat Milwaukee. Even more felt they would have beat Milwaukee if it wasn't for injuries. Reasons aside, in 2 seasons in the 7-11 era, the Nets had only made it to the second round once. But this season should be different. A full season with the Big Three. This was the year. Until...
what would you do? If you felt uncomfortable going into the season when you were promised that you would have exemptions or that you didn't have to be forced to get the vaccine.
New York City required the vaccine for indoor activities. Obviously, Kyrie did not get the vaccine. Thus, he was barred from playing. But since the rule was a New York City regulation, there was some speculation as to whether Kyrie could play in road games. But the Nets were used to playing without Kyrie at this point, and they did not need him. And by December, they were 21-8. It was looking like the Nets were back, but due to health and safety protocols, players around the league were missing games. On December 17th, the Nets had 7 players in COVID protocols. Joe Harris and Nick Claxton were out with injury, and KD was still going through load management. The Nets folded, allowing Kyrie Irving back with the team, but for road games only. Kyrie would make his debut on January 5th in Indiana. The Nets were 24-12 at that point, and Kyrie scored 22. It was one of only 2 games that season where KD, Kyrie, and James Harden all played together. The dysfunction only continued. Rumors began swirling that James Harden wanted out of Brooklyn. Only a month after Kyrie made his season debut, after a 9-game losing streak, the Nets fell to 8th in the standings on February 10th.
Brooklyn Nets are trading James Harden to Philadelphia.
Harden was traded to the 76ers for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. In all, the Nets' big 3 of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden only played 16 games together. The Nets season never got back on track. Ben Simmons did not play a game for the Nets that season. Kyrie only played 29, and the Nets entered the playoffs, 7th in the East. And in the playoffs, they were swept by Kyrie's former team, the Boston Celtics. KD shot under 40% from the field in the series. All the Nets' magic, all the Nets' excitement, all the Nets' hype were gone.
You do not give a lengthy contract extension fully guaranteed. Hell no.
In the offseason, the Nets owner, Joe Tsai, did not want to give Kyrie a contract extension. With Kyrie leaving the team, the COVID drama, and injuries, he was just flat out unreliable. So Kyrie Irving threatened to opt out of his contract, becoming a free agent, but eventually Kyrie opted in, not leaving $37 million on the table. But then only a month later, Kevin Durant requested a trade from Brooklyn, but the Nets really did not want to trade him. They invested so much into his teams, including saying yes to DeAndre Jordan, firing Kenny Atkinson, hiring Steve Nash, and trading for Harden. And a month after his request, KD gave the Nets an ultimatum: trade me or fire Steve Nash and GM Sean Marks. Reports said that KD no longer had faith in the future of the franchise. But soon after, KD rescinded his trade request, and the Nets entered the season amidst more dysfunction. And just when you thought the drama couldn't get any worse, this happened.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
Kyrie initially refused to apologize, but the whole world began condemning him, including news and sports journalists arguing for his suspension. It was bad. And for those who don't know, the New York area is the greatest concentration of Jewish people in the United States. So to post an anti-Semitic video link when most of the people and fans in the area are Jewish is disrespectful and just flat out insane. And just 1 week later,
Just 7 games into the season, the Brooklyn Nets have decided to fire head coach Steve Nash.
The Nets fired Steve Nash after a disappointing 2-5 start. Jacques Vaughn took over as interim once again, and Kyrie Irving was suspended by the Brooklyn Nets. This story was bigger than basketball. People who did not cover basketball, people who did not watch the NBA, and people who just did not care about sports all knew about the story. And the Nets' dysfunction reached a global stage. The Nets said that Kyrie was, quote, unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie eventually apologized, and by the end of January, the Nets were 4th in the East, 31-19. But the vibes around the team were terrible. With the trade deadline only a week away, Kyrie requested a trade. But Kyrie's value around the league had hit rock bottom. Teams did not want him in the locker room, and they did not want to be associated with him and all the drama he carries. And on February 6th, the Nets traded him to the Dallas Mavericks, getting back Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and draft picks in the deal. And just 3 days later, the Nets traded KD to the Suns for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first-round draft picks, and a 2028 first-round pick swap in return. And just like that, the 7-11 era in Brooklyn was over. Looking back, the Nets were a toe away from winning the NBA Finals. I have no doubt they would have got through Atlanta and the Suns. It's amazing to think how the legacies of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden would have changed. Kevin Durant would have gotten his respect amongst fans and players around the league, leading his own team to the finals and capturing his 3rd ring. Kyrie would have proved to the world that he could help win a championship while building his own team. And James Harden would have earned his first NBA championship, overcoming the criticisms that he was not a winner. But that did not happen. And now Kevin Durant's Suns look unlikely to compete for an NBA championship. James Harden is on his 4th team in 5 years and is unlikely to do anything substantial with the Clippers. And ironically, the player that the Nets wanted to get rid of most winds up being a star on a finals team in Dallas. The Nets are an important lesson in building a championship team. The era of ring-chasing stars actually winning NBA championships are rare. Now, most recent champions, Boston and Denver, built from within. And with the second apron, it's even more important now. Adding key pieces for their role and fit, not necessarily their star name. But now the Nets have another chance to build the team the right way, hoping to find their next star in the 2025 NBA Draft. I want to thank y'all for watching. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content coming soon.